say like how long I've been brewing? You want any of that stuff?
Yeah, just tell us about yourself and how long you've been doing it, and then we'll just go right into.
All right, sounds good.
That.
All right, so hi, my name is Bob Fullmer. I've been brewing since 1995. Started mostly back in those days with mead. Started getting into beer. What got me started in brewing was Buddy and I drank Budweiser and Coors Light to my shame back in the day.
We all did.
Yeah. And didn't realize everything. If you guys ever have any questions too, feel free to chime in.
Can you mix rum with beer?
You can.
I'd like that.
I don't know if I'd advise it, but yeah, you can. You can mix anything with beer, man. Knock your socks off. But
sorry, I screwed you up, didn't
No, you know, it's funny you say stuff like that, because then you get, as soon as you start, when somebody even jokingly says something, I'm like, how could that be duplicated without killing someone? You know, like rum is a process made through cane sugar. And then I start thinking, well, what would happen if you cook cane sugar and put it in beer? Of course, you're going to increase your... See, that's how my mind works.
That's awesome.
Hey, gang, how y'all doing? We're just doing I'm going to talk about beer. I'm brewing beer today. I'm not going into my Scottish accent because we're actually doing a thing for the web TV show.
Oh, you can.
Oh, I'll do that soon.
But
but I'm going to talk about beer. Right now I'm going to talk about modern and period medieval brewing practices. So I've been brewing since '95. Went to Bennigan's. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Back in the day, and they had this thing called the Copper Clover Club back in the day. And if you drank 100 beers, not all in one shot, if you drank 100 beers, you'd get this copper mug. And then if you drank another 100 beers, you got like a silver mug. And then if you drank another 100 beers, you got like this gold or platinum-ish mug.
That's an incentive program.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then they initially there was no limit, so me and my buddy were like, pow, pow. And then they said, okay, you can only have 5. You only get 5 in one night. And then they took it down to 3. Okay, but smart move on their half, instead of having drunk people leave Bennigan's, you know. But having bringing that piece up. Going from Coors Light and Budweiser back in 1995 to beers of the world was innovative. It wasn't a big deal back then. 95 was the start of 95 Dogfish Head, Sierra Nevada, was when innovators in the beer industry were starting to come together and create different beers apart from the Reichsgebot. Now the Reichsgebot, if you don't know, is a German purity law that said only hops, grain, water, and yeast could be added to beer. Okay, and that was the German purity law. Okay, that was what had to be. That was pretty much, if you weren't doing that, out the door you went. And then you had big brewing conglomerations like Budweiser, Coors Light, Anheuser-Busch. All them guys were pretty much setting the standard. Hey, this is beer. So when you get this little business like Bennigan's, which really wasn't that little at the time, bringing these world beers in, and you start drinking beer, and you're like, wow, this is pretty good. This is different. This is different than Budweiser. And then I started to get a real appreciation for beer. So that's how my beer addiction. No, my beer. Hi, my name is Bob Fullmer, and I am an addict. No. That's when it started to really show that beer was good, really good, better than what they were handing us. So that's how I started. 95, I said, hey, I want to learn how to do it. So I started to get some of the equipment and found a local brew store, and
that's it.
Yeah, that's when we went. And I went in and out, of consciousness. No, I went in and out of brewing for a while, and then we'd come back and do it, and different groups of people would come and brew with us. And we were brewing mead, which is fermented honey water. We were brewing a little bit of wine. We were doing beer primarily, and that's pretty much what I do today. I've added cider to it because cider, if you don't know, is on the coattails of the beer industry. So I don't know where I left off, but so 95. So you got Sam Clignone, Dogfish Head. You got Sierra Nevada. You got all these guys that are starting to, at that point, develop different beers outside of the Reinheitsgebot, the German purity law. So that's when I got started, about 95. And then I belong to a medieval society. I brew for them. And we brew, I brewed 100 gallons for the summer. Pennsylvania brew laws, you can brew 100 gallons per person, per household, up to a maximum of 200 gallons in a household. So that's the deal, and I'm under 200 gallons, but I've got
Always.
Is that at one time, or is that
That's
200
for the
gallons
year.
for the year? Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'm not even going to bring up something else. I'll tell you that later. Cut this piece out.
Okay.
But anyway, because I don't want to bring light to it. But anyway, so I brew for a medieval society. I'm a friar there, and I'm portraying. This is medieval days here at Ridley Creek Colonial Plantation.
Yep.
And so I'm doing that. And the history of the monks and the friars brewing walks hand in hand with beer. I mean, it's just.
Now you see that depicted in a lot of movies. Like it's always the friar that's brewing. So
Yep.
I guess that's true.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There was a couple reasons why they brewed. Let's first we'll talk medieval purpose for medieval, colonial, pre-prohibition, more like 19th century and older. Okay, so we forget today that if I want to get a drink of water, I can go to my tap and get it out of my faucet. The water could kill you. Like you could get dysentery, you could get sick and die. There were a lot of deaths from drinking water. You know, and you think about the necessity of having to have you could go a month without food. What is it, 3 days, 4 days without water, like biologically. So if you don't have water, you die. So some people had to, you know. And it's not like they could go to Wawa and like, hey, I need lemonade and a shorty, you know, like, yeah, no Wawas, no TV. Oh wait, no cell phones. I mean,
Dark Ages.
yeah. So, so they were real limited in what they could drink. And when I do my spiel and talk to people, I say, what would you drink? Well, a lot of people are wise and they say, well, I wouldn't drink the water. Oh, that's a good start. You may not die then, but you still might. You know, and then you know, kids don't know the importance of the beer to particularly North Germany and Britain, Great Britain, and you know all those, because and then you got wine to the south, that the alcohol content would kill the bacteria. That's why. Now beer is because we boil and get rid of a lot of the contaminants, and they didn't understand that. So beer was their drink. I mean, if you think about what else you could drink, if you were lucky, maybe you had a cow, maybe you had a goat, you know, but maybe you didn't. Apples and apple juice and stuff like that, maybe. It depended on where you were, you know, the time of year. Beer, they had year round. It's barley. They could store it, you boil it, and we'll talk about that process shortly. So beer, unlike today, calories are the devil. Back then, they needed the calories. You look like freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger compared to me, man. Like two of you. But anyway, yeah. So yeah.
Just went like that.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, so beer. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger's old too, just so you know.
Still hot though.
He's still. Wow.
Yeah.
So says the cameraman, Donna.
Camera person.
Camera girl.
That's Bob Biggins.
Oh.
Anyway.
See our show.
I can't wait.
Everybody.
So you have, so beer was important for their diet, for their calories. It was safe to drink, and that's what they had. Kids were drinking it, adults were drinking it because they had to. I am not endorsing kids drinking under the age of 21.
Connor, you hear that?
Yeah, no drinking until you're 21.
I think Connor.
Well, yeah.
But we don't need to cut that piece out too. All right. So anyway, no hidden meanings. All right. So we're going to talk about the process, and
Awesome.
today we're going to talk about the differences between modern and medieval, and understand brewing process hasn't changed really.
It's pretty much the same.
Hot water over barley, make sugar water, let it sit, turns to alcohol. Might not be good alcohol, but it turns to alcohol.
Okay.
All right, so let's start. So what I got here is a copper kettle. and we're in between. We're in between boils right now, so we're heating this guy up, and I'm leaving it boil. There's only a little bit of water in there right now.
Okay.
Because most of it's in our mash tun.
Where'd you get the water from?
I scooped it out of the river. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that.
That's what I was wondering. As
No.
soon as you said about the water,
No,
and
man.
stuff, I
Let's talk about calories and laziness. Okay. There's a barrel up there with a hose in it, with
Okay.
public water, and so it's clean. It's drink. We're not going to die from it, which is good. So it's a good start. And then, you ever wonder how people figured out, like, how things were good and bad? Like, like you're sitting around a campfire with your buddies, and you lean over and you see this big mushroom, right? And you're like, hey, dude, try that. And then he tries it, he dies, and you're like, I'm not gonna eat that, man.
That would be me.
Yeah.
Here, try this.
Dude,
for
try
me.
that.
Lou, try this.
Yeah. So, I always wondered how people found out through trial and error that things were bad for you. Anyway, I've probably been that guy too. No, I'm hungry.
All right, so we got the water boiler.
Yeah, so we got the water from the tap. Now, we're talking about calories. You figure I got my buckets, and this is my medieval bucket here, plastic. Anyway, got my bucket, I got my one copper kettle, and went up with my van. Got the waters, filled it up, brought it, because I've carried them down here before, and I'm like, that's too much like work, man. They didn't have that luxury. Maybe if they had a horse and wagon, they might have done that, but unlikely, because this really isn't that far. That's like so lame. I'm lame and out of shape and old. Anyway, so no, but we get water, preferably some kind of water. And let's talk about water real quick, because you want to know about all the pieces. Recently, the American Homebrew Association just came out. Well, it's been probably a year now. Came out with a book just on water. Okay, and I was like. I mean, the book's like 400 pages, and I'm looking at it, and it's got chemical and stuff in it, and I'm not that guy, like I'm in the history, but that science guy, I could care less about, H2O, C5, and all this stuff. So I was like, how much difference is water going to make, really? So I did an experiment. I took water from my tap. I took spring water from the market, which who knows where that came from. And I took filtered water, and I brewed the same recipe in 3 different types of water, and did find a difference in the quality of beer.
Really?
Wow.
Maybe not necessarily that one was better than the other, but there were differences. I was amazed. I was like, wow. Needless to say, I still brew with tap water, but because it's easiest, and I'm already paying for other ingredients, why pay for water too? But anyway, so it does make a difference. So we get our water. Now, when you brew water, let's talk about this setup here. We're over an open fire. No, I don't brew this way at home. Okay, I've got a nice turkey burner. Went down to like Lowe's and picked up. I forget how many BTUs. One of those kick butt ones, and like just the hotter the better. Quicker boil. It limits your brew day. And stuff like that. So, are you making fun of me?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Making
trying not
faces
to
and-
cry on camera.
Yeah.
Come over
Just
this
move
way.
that- no matter where you go,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
follow
what
you.
it is.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
So-
Are you drinking beer?
No, I wish. It's just like I mean, yes, it is. Beer. No. So, you see the copper kettle, fire. We don't do that. Like modern brewing, you get a turkey burner. And let's talk real quick. You want to talk about brewing practices. Back in the Middle Ages, this is what they had. Okay, fire, burn, hot water. Quick thing too, interesting thing, rule of thumb. I heard, have you ever heard somebody say, and women, please forgive me, have you ever heard this?
Oh boy.
This is something I heard. The rule of thumb. Have you heard the rule of thumb? Where you could not beat your wife with a stick bigger than your thumb. That's what I had heard. But it's not true. What is true is rule of thumb is what brewers used to.
Bigger than your thumb. That's
Can't
a
be
good wand
bigger.
stick.
Can't be bigger.
Yeah, you don't want to kill them. They still got to cook their meals. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, no. I know. I'm sorry,
Click
guys. I'm only
off.
kidding. Yeah, I'm only kidding. Believe me. No. Rule of thumb. My wife is a saint. Believe me. Rule of thumb.
Me too.
Brewers dip their thumb in the hot water to check temperature. And it's funny, the longer I've been doing this, by the way, I didn't mention that, I've been doing historic brewing since about, 2010.
Okay.
Like serious historic brewing. So they dip their thumb in, and that's what the rule of thumb supposedly came from. Temperature checking by brewers. So forget about that garbage, the other garbage, I don't believe it.
Can you
But
feel
anyway.
your thumb now, like from dipping?
Yeah, well, you know what's funny? If it's boiling, obviously you don't put your finger in it. And the trick here is you don't want to put your
Wuss.
you don't want your water boiling for the mash, and we'll talk about for this step, because it can scald grain and give you all flavors, burnt flavors in your beer. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Copper kettle. A lot of new brewers go to like Kmart and get the turkey burner. Warning: aluminum brew pots are good for a while. Replace them after a year, because aluminum can start giving off flavors and actually can cause problems in your beer. So and my thought is, if you're brewing on a fairly serious basis, go get a stainless steel kettle. Easy to clean, they'll last you forever, you know, and you'll get a better quality boil out of them. And if you want to go the extra mile, get one with a thermometer and a spout. But that's how, depending on how serious a person is about, you know. And if you're not serious, just replace your aluminum kettle, you know, within a year, and you'll be good to go. Now, somebody may disagree with that. Everyone's going to have an opinion. You know what they say opinions are like. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, so you talk about that. So we have a turkey burner, lots of BTUs. I mean, you could get a decent, you could get a good turkey burner at Lowe's for like $50, $60. And if you know now stainless steel kettle.
There weren't as many Lowe's back in medieval time.
Yeah,
But there were a few.
well, there was this guy named Lord Lowe.
Wow, he just turned that on me.
His son was named Rob. No, I'm just kidding. That's not but anyway, no. So get yourself a stainless steel kettle if you're serious about brewing. It'll pay you off in the long run. Go to your brew stores, get them. You can get them online too. Sometimes. Don't show this to any of my friends that are in the business of selling brewing equipment. But check it out. You know. And, cool. Yeah. So get yourself a stainless steel brew kettle. Put your first water on. Usually for us, back like I told you about the rule of thumb, I dip it in. What I found with the Middle Ages boil is you see like that fire, that smoke just start to come over the top. Is usually a good temperature for mashing. We know that we're in, what is it? I've been mashing at about 150 to 160. That's a good temperature to your first mash for your grain. All right. Okay. So what we did is, from here, they didn't have all the wonderful inventions we had back then, like siphons and tubes and all that stuff. So we use the spoon of doom. This is my Vorpal spoon of death. It was made by a metalsmith. People love it. And if somebody gets out of line, no. So it's really cool. Like I said, it was made by a friend of mine who's an amazing metalsmith. And we transport our water from here to here, spoon by spoon. Can I hold it? All right,
I have the spoon!
Yeah. Anyway, there's a fella, brewing historian that I learned from. His name's Rich Wagner. He's a Pennsylvania brewing historian, and I learned a lot from him. He's got a really cool, he had a stick that was like a log or something that a cooper made. And the cooper is the person that makes barrels. It had a branch still attached to it. So he made a sheave out of one of the pieces of the wood with the stick hanging out of it, and then made the barrel around it. So he's got the stick and this barrel on the end of it. He uses that as a lid.
Wow.
Right, and he's got a 30-gallon copper kettle. I also have a 30-gallon. This one's an 8 gallons. He's got a 30-gallon copper kettle, and he just scoops the beer out of that thing. It's really cool. So transporting water to here, pots, pitchers, big spoons.
Right.
However,
just get it in there.
Right, now what we do is we get pitchers, and we scoop water from the stainless steel kettle, modern, into the mash tun. Now our mash tun, they didn't have all the wonderful things we had. Yeah, watch behind you. This is copper, very common in the Middle Ages and colonial America, also very expensive. Your average Joe isn't going to have this. This might be in an industry, maybe in a monastery, maybe, but mostly in an industrial setting for beer. We have wonderful things called coolers that you put your beer in, and you get a cooler. You can make it yourself, or you can buy it at the brew store. They're not cheap. I made one myself, and I bought one from the brew store. They have a filter inside of it, a mesh filter, and you put your grain in there, and you put your 160-degree water in there for mash, and you close it up and let it sit for about an hour. Now, Middle Ages, it's funny, time is a funny thing for people in the Middle Ages because most of them didn't have a watch. So like those recipes, you'll read them in the Middle Ages and it says, leave the mash set for walk the field 3 times. And you're like, first of all, I don't know what the field is, and second of all, how long is that, But truthfully, the women who were doing most of the brewing in the Middle Ages would have set the beer and went about their 150,000 tasks that they do in a day. Don't let anyone ever tell you a medieval woman would kick your booty because they worked their butts off taking care of the kids, the house, the chores, and all the stuff in the house. All right, so that joke I made earlier, believe me, I don't believe that one bit. And I'm just getting in it. So talking about the mash method, we talked about the modern cooler, medieval coolers. Let's talk about beer history. We have to do that to understand mash. So it's hard to talk about all of it because you figured we're talking about process, we're talking about brewing, we're talking about history, and there's so much to talk about. So
All right. Yeah, we're good.
all right. So anyway,
Beer.
all right. So mash tuns and brewing process. You've got. Did I talk about Grew It yet? I don't think I did. Okay. History of beer, real quick, in a nutshell. Before hops, they used herbs in beer. Okay. You'll see something like the 14th century unhopped beer was called ale. Forget about that for a minute. We're going to talk about Grew It, G-R-U-I-T, Grew It. Grew It was herbed flavored beer. They use Chate Jihao, dogfish head. It's freaking awesome if you haven't had it. They found it was from 10,000 BC. They found these urns that was at a ceremony where they buried beer. They drank the beer for a funeral. Everyone got tanked, and any beer left over, they put in these jars and buried them with the dead. And what they found, they pulled these jars up intact and did scrapings and found the exact ingredients of what was in that Chate Jihao. Okay, 10,000 BC. All right. It's like all these herbs. It's honey. It's got muscat wine in there and everything mixed together. And they, partied hard, I'm sure, like an Irish wake. And then there was fighting. No. So anyway, so to talk about Grew It, most common in Europe, bog myrtle is always listed. And I forget what the modern term is for that. Look it up on the internet. It's got some weird scientific name. And then mugwort and thyme, rosemary. They'd add these herbs that they could go out and pick. The idea of them were twofold. One, they acted as a minor preservative, and two, they helped balance the sweetness of the malt. All right, so that's what was going on for years. Now hops was around, and there's documentation of hops being grown in monasteries, but there isn't until Adelard, A-L-D-E-R-A-L-D, Adelard. It was a friar that talks about it's 1032 that he actually used it in beer, hops. Okay, and so about the 14th century, you see hops becoming more prevalent in the use of beer. And the reason I say it's important is because as soon as hops was brought in and used on a regular basis, Grew It started to disappear slowly, and they found out that hops preserve beer 3 times longer, and then it became an industry, and then men came and snatched it from the women and started making money off it. Okay, and became an export in the 14th century. So around the 14th century, you see more recipes happening from the Middle Ages for beer. What also took it out of the household was there were people. It took gruit many hundreds of years to go away because, hey, you always made the gruit. You knew it was safe to drink. It didn't kill you. It wasn't bad usually, and I could go pick the herbs in my garden. Why make it go away? You know, because hops wasn't being grown regularly in Europe, so you had to import them, so that cost money.
Right. And
And then to get them to, and the town cost money, and you know, it just became a huge hassle. So it'll follow you. Did you move from this book? Yeah. So it took a long time for gruit, and gruit never actually went away, but hops did prevail because hops was better. It was a better tasting preservative, and it lasted longer than the other stuff. So what happened with beer, and this is a big innovation, hops was the biggest innovation to beer ever, even today. Because hops did so much for beer, and that's like a medieval discovery, which is so cool. You know, something that came back then is still huge and important in beer today. But went from, initially when they made beer, they'd use one pot. So a pot like that one over there, they put everything in it, grain, water, their herbs, threw it in, start the fire, let it boil, get it, then pour it into or scoop it into a sackcloth, or some kind of cloth. I know the smoke's killing us if you're wondering why we're crying. It's actually my talk is making you cry. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, yeah. So then you pour it into a sackcloth and get all the crap out of it and strain it, let it sit for a few days, voila. Okay, but they found that if they added a pot process to this, that they would strain out even more and the beer would be less chunky. So you know, and we'll talk about palate because there's a recipe. I gotta tell you about palate right now.
Okay, good chunky beer.
If you needed those ingredients and that was part of your diet and you needed it to survive, you would drink chunky beer. Our palates today are so different because we have an expectation of fresh ingredients. We have they got what they got, man. You know, like their palate. I mean, we have beer that we wouldn't even touch. I made it gruit. Me and a couple of my friends made it gruit recently, and we put all this mugwort in it. Oh God, it was so bad. It tasted like if I sprayed like Lysol down my throat. It was so bad. And I was like, I'm gonna save this beer. I'm gonna add 6 pounds of honey and sweeten the hell out of it. It didn't make a difference. And I was very sad. And I was like, I'm gonna add six more pounds. And my buddy Tony's like, Bob, just let it go. Just let it go. This puppy's dead. So we dumped it. And it was a sad day. And everybody cried. But anyway, we had a wake. Drank beer and beat the crap out of each other. No. But anyway, so it went from one pot to 2 pots, and that's where they started doing these mash inventions, where real basic thing. Now we talked about, I keep going back, moderns using these like coolers today. Brewing industries use these massive vats. Yeah. Okay. This friend of mine, brewery, just he's a 22 barrel vat. Take 22 times 15 and then figure out how much beer they can make in one shot. Anyhow, let me add another log on this bad boy.
I feel like I just want to hit something.
It's Darth Amber. All right. So anyway, so they went to 2 vats and talk about this setup. Pensbury Manor in Philadelphia they found, and this is through Rich Wagner, the Pennsylvania brewing historian, found the actual brewing setup in the manor. But obviously, they couldn't use it because it would fall apart. Right? So they got people in, took pictures, and made it. And what it is something that looks like a half of a 55-gallon barrel with a hole in the bottom of it. Stick put in it. Mash gets put the grain gets put in there. Hot water goes in that. They cover it, let it sit for a while, and then filter it. We're going to talk about filtering by lifting that stick up a little bit and letting the water drift through as a filtration system. This is based on that model. Smaller, cleaner, more efficient, but still period, because it's copper. Taken from a concept found, what, Pennsbury? How old? Pretty old, 16 something, 16. Yeah, it's old. So we took that, and then this, I got also the idea from some illuminations found in the Middle Ages. You can find a lot of stuff, beautiful drawings. If you've ever seen illuminations of people doing things and working, and I saw that, fairly certain it was a filtration device used by monks, which is pretty interesting. But anyhow, so we talked about two pots, and that second pot, think about it, if you're a woman making beer in a house and you have one pot that's 8 gallons and you're like an average person who doesn't have a lot of money, having another pot that big would probably be out of the question. You probably wouldn't have the money for that. Okay, so that's another reason why Gruit went away and modern industrial beer started to take shape in the 14th century. Okay, by the way, I say 14th century, there was things happening before that, but the 14th century we see a lot more documentation of it happening more often. So I use 14th century as kind of like a midpoint. All right, so there's your mash. So you want to take a look in here? Yeah. So I don't have my mash rake with me. I forgot it today. But inside here is grain. It was 10 pounds, but I spilt some on the ground. But in a way, they would have used this, by the way, on the ground. This is your crushed barley. Would have crushed it by hand or had it done at a mill. That, like I said, that was on the ground. They probably would have added that because they needed to. So there's this wet oatmeal-like substance down inside here, and we'll see that as we drain out. You'll get to see that better. Took that 160-degree water, threw that on top here, and let that sit for a time. I know we're getting close over an hour, maybe an hour to 2 hours. It's fine. The idea is drawing that sugar water off of that grain so we can put it in, called wort at that point, into the mash, back onto the fire.
Okay, so you said sugar water. So this is actually pulling the sugar out of this mixture to put in there. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going to drain. You're going to drain in.
Correct.
To that bucket.
Yep. And
then put it back in there.
Yep. That's exactly right. So we had the hot water initially, 160 degrees. We add that. And I'm glad you actually said this. I'm going to take this and put this on here, hopefully not spill it. By the way, this plastic bucket is not medieval. It's just more convenient than carrying around a 20-pound barrel. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is start adding, you want to put some wood on that for me? Sure. And I'll keep yapping. We're going to bring this back up. Now the idea is, I want to catch this now to just a boil. And we're going to start draining this once we get that water heated up and going. More? Maybe another, yeah, that's good. We'll get that puppy burning.
Kenny's working.
I know.
Let me tell you, this hobby to me is just, it's the coolest. Brewing is amazing. It's just to me, and I'm a food guy. This is where this comes from mostly. Trying foods, yeah, Indian, Thai, any. I just want to try it. And beer's like the same animal. It's like there's so many different flavors in beer. And then the community, the people are just. Like I said, I've been brewing since '95, and I think I've met two a-hole brewers.
We said a few of the choice words.
Yeah, I've met two people that I wasn't very fond of. It's a rare bird. Most of the brewers that's the other reason with the brewing industry, the people are just so willing to help you become better because they want that product that you make and to try. This is Bob Fullmer's, one of my little pun phrases, okay? I quote this. Brewing is a fluid art. Fluid because if you're a brewer and you learn from me, and then later on, you're brewing something and I learn from you. So it's fluid. It's always moving. Mm-hmm. It's evolving. Okay? And so so it's a fluid art. Yeah, it's beer, it's fluid, it's liquid, but it's also shared. And the brewers, I haven't met any. I've had brewers share recipes with me. You get Zermagy magazine or Brew Your Own or any of these magazines. Those guys are sharing recipes all the time. So, and their knowledge, and it makes you and me better brewers, and better consumers. Yeah. Because it educates you and understand what beer styles are. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. If I did, just edit this. There are more styles of beer than wine. There's over 400 styles of beer. So if anyone ever tells you, I don't drink beer, I don't like it, I say to them, you haven't tried enough.
You haven't found the right one.
You have not tried enough.
There is, or you probably mean it in quantity.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I like trying different, I try all different ones.
Well, if I say, like, okay, a sour ale, like a Berliner, we just made one. First time I had a chance to make. Scared to put, by the way, Brettanomycin is what makes beer sour. And if you're a home brewer and have things open in your brewery, it can spread in your brewery and make everything sour. So I was scared to death of sours. But I added lactic acid to my Berliner Weiss, and it became sour instantly, and I didn't have the chance of spreading anything. It was a beautiful thing, and it's amazing because I love sour beer. So, but sour beer, sour wheat, and then you lay down a oatmeal stout next to it. They're two completely different. That my dad, who's older and getting a little out there, all beer tastes the same to me. I'm like, no. So I encourage any listeners, if you're sitting there and you're a young lady or a young man that I don't drink beer, it sucks. You got to keep trying. Try lambics. Keep trying. You will find one you like.
Don't quit.
There was one.
Don't be a quitter.
One of the establishments in media. They had one that was like a creme brulee beer. It was unbelievable. It was just amazing. Not your father's root beer. Don't know if you classify that as a beer, but it is
good.
Yeah. I mean,
I like it, yeah.
Sweet Baby Jesus. I make Sweet Baby Jesus as a peanut butter stout. It tastes like a Reese's peanut butter cup if you have it. The Claws makes that. I make one now. I didn't want the candy, I didn't want that super chocolate taste. I wanted all the chocolate to come from the malt. So I just added the peanut butter to it and then just kept the stout true. It's so good. It is amazing.
That's the kind of stuff that I like. I like when you play with it and you just experiment and put flavors like that into it. It's awesome.
And I want beer to taste like beer. I don't want beer to taste like, a Reese's peanut butter cup. I want a beer that has a peanut quality, but still can be identified as a stout.
Right.
That's me.
That's awesome.
But anyway. All right, so we talked about the mash tuns. So
water in there.
Yeah, we put the 160-degree water in. We let that sit for a time. We know today a time is about an hour in general. Some people might say 2 hours, some might say an hour and a half. I say 1 hour. Then we put more water on.
Which we did.
Yep. And, just a key number. We're using 4 gallons. If you're a 5-gallon brewer, okay, which is a normal, by the way, if you're not a normal brewer, 5-gallon batch of beer gives you 2 cases and maybe a few extra, depending on how much burn off you have. Okay, that's the rule of thumb for that. But for a 5-gallon batch of beer, my first amount is 4 gallons of water. That's the 160. We put that in. Then our next batch we've been doing 3.5. So we've been going down. We found that was a little high, so we went down to 3. So we're putting off 7 gallons between burn off there and stuff we burn off later. So you end up, you're looking for about 6 gallons when you're done, because you'll lose some when you're letting it ferment. So that's just some numbers to run by you. Some people may agree or disagree. It depends on how hot you're going and how, you know what else is interesting? Humidity. So so at 160, put it in, then we bring more water to boil about at 170. Okay, not much more, about 10 degrees more. We let that go, we're gonna cater at 170. Now what we do with this is we're gonna lift the stick inside here and let this wort water fall out. Sugar water, that's what is called wort, W-O-R-T. All right, so we're gonna let this water run out, and we'll be doing that any minute now. In a mash tun, a modern one, is a spout. You just open the spout, and it comes through the cooler.
Okay.
And you put it into a collection bucket or right into the brew pot. Sometimes people they'll run it back through again, but again, it's all about time. Okay. And I want to talk about something. I always interrupt with these things. There's some things to talk about. Home brewers, obviously medieval, colonial, couldn't go to the brew store and buy a malt extract, and they couldn't get yeast. They couldn't do any of that.
No Wawa.
Right. Not that they sell that. The Wawa sold brew stuff. That would be the Wawa's already amazing. It's but they're talking about selling beer. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Wawa's already awesome.
Well, one down in Philly does.
Well,
down in Center City does.
yeah. So, but anyway, so let's talk about cost now. Have you ever heard this thing on crafting? It's a saying. You can have three things in crafting, but you can never have all three. You can only have two of the three. Have you heard this?
No.
Okay. There's quality, time, and money. Okay. But you can never have all three in any, whether it's carpentry, whether it's plumbing, you can only have two of the three. So quality, you have to have. So we need quality, right?
Yes.
You got a log to fill out.
Run away, log! Don't pick it up with your hands. Thank you. You just shove that under. Thank you. So quality, time, money. Put quality aside. You got to have quality, and no one wants to drink crap. All right. So leave quality over here. So then it's time or money. You're either going to save time or you're going to save money. Same way in brewing. I'm going to explain. With grain, with a new brewer, I always say go with a malt extract. It's a good way to start. Malt extract is basically what we're doing here done for you. Okay, it is basically like syrup. And they basically condense it down into this syrupy solution that you can buy. Having said that, if we do, mashing is what takes the longest time to do. Okay, a normal brew day can run anywhere from, we do 5 to 8 hours. Okay, for mashing. Now out here it's whenever because there's so many factors involved. But in your house, 5 to 8 hours. If you're new at it, it's going to take you a little while. Okay, so to cut time out, you could buy malt extract. Malt extract in a 1.1 liter container. By the way, this is 2015, and I say that not because he's playing the flute back there. It's 2015, so that it's about $15 for a 1.1 liter of malt extract. You need 2 of them, so it's $30 just for the malt, not for the hops and the yeast. Okay. Now, if you're brewing a lot, you can buy a 30-pound growler of malt extract, about $75, but you're going to get 5 batches out of it. Takes it down to about $15 a batch. So you cut that small one in half. See, money's important when you're poor,
Yeah.
Yes.
but also a home brewer. Because if I'm going to spend, $30 a case for beer, I'll go to the liquor store and get it. You know what I mean? Well, probably not, but some people want to save money. So when we talked about either saving time or saving money, if I buy that 30-pounder and know I'm going to use it within a couple weeks, you're golden. Just get that. And you could do something called steeping grains. So if I buy amber extract and I want to make, say, a stout, I'll buy 1 pound of chocolate malt, maybe a pound of 120 crystal malt, maybe some oats if I want to do. So your grain bill's small, but your price is going to be higher. And then what you do is you put that malt extract. What you do is you get your grains for steeping grains. You put them in a steeping bag. Put your grains in. Stick it in the pot while it's getting ready to get hot. When it starts to boil, pull that out. Add your malt extract. Stir it in, and you've gotten rid of all this process. Okay, but you're paying more money. So we talked about malt extracts or kits. Kits have everything you need in them, done for you. The next step up is partial mash, where you do a little bit of grain in a pot and then add some more malt extracts. Are we on the same page? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then the cheapest way to go is buying grain. Now, I could buy a 50-pound bag of grain for, depends on where you go, $50. If you've got contacts in places, you can get it even cheaper. Okay, so my batches are costing me about $5 in grain, not including hops and Geeks. All right, so $20. And what kills you, by the way, brewers, the sad part is if you save your pop top bottles and clean them, because glass is expensive as the dickens. All right, like it's like $12 a case for glass. All right, new. So save your bottles, clean them, or go to kegging, which is also an option. Cornelius kegs, homebrew kegs. All right, so they had beer. That's why they're banging the drum. No.
I'll be banging the drum.
Hey now. Hey, leave your personal life out of this. All right,
Hey
anyway.
now.
Hey now. All right, so
There we go.
yeah. So we have. I just wanted to talk about that because it's important for the home brewer to know time and money. It's one or the other. The nice thing about all grain too is this is entirely all your brew. So it's either all your beautifulness or all your shame, which doesn't happen often. Just keep it clean. Keep it clean. All right, hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Just I'm making beer here today, and I'm talking about the process, modern and medieval. So hang out, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. All right, so we talked about that. We we drain this. If you guys want to take a look in here, you guys don't mind if they pop in. Come on over. Right now, this has been sitting for over an hour. What's it smell like? Can you smell it? Garden. I'm doing it wrong then.
Uh-oh.
Smell like oatmeal? Hops? There's no hops in it.
What is it?
It's, if you put your nose in there, I can't even smell. It's the wind too, but it's more like, it has like an oatmeal smell.
Oh, okay.
Because what's going on here? Here, let me tell you how you smell. No, I don't mean it like that. You smell like oatmeal. No. It's hot water steeping, so when you add hot water to oatmeal, it creates sweet oatmeal, and that's what we're doing. We're drawing off the sugars off of this right now in a thing called mashing. Any minute now, I'm going to start draining this wort water to put it back on the fire. Okay, so that's where we're at with this. And beer, the quick gist of it, why beer, ladies?
Do you remember why he told us this before?
Because it's good.
Wait, I told you before?
Yes.
Okay, this is, if I taught you, this is quiz time, man.
Gloria, why do they drink
We
beer?
put you in a stockade if you answer
Why do
wrong.
they drink beer?
Because they can't drink water.
That's
Very
right.
good.
Very
Woo!
good. Yay, yay, today. But now you get to pick one of your sisters to go in the stockade. I'm just kidding. No, she's like, I'm hiding behind mom. All right, so beer, and it's also the today the calories are the devil, but back then they needed them because they burned them like crazy. So you guys have had some of this already, which is great. You're not brewing yet? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, let's go.
We're trying.
You are?
I
Good.
have a 26-year-old who's trying to brew some beer.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
have
guys-
your card.
Good. Call me if you need help.
Okay.
Where are you guys located?
Drexel Hill.
Oh, I'm immediate. So
Perfect.
if you ever need help, let me know. We brew almost every Sunday, and we just put down another 50 gallons. So anyway, so back on track. Collecting the water, we take our little bit hotter water off now and just run it straight through to pull any other leftover sugar behind.
So we're going to do that?
Yep. Before I do that though, the grain that's left over, a lot of times we throw a lot of stuff out today. Middle Ages, man, that would have been a stupid thing to do. They might make beer bread out of that. They might feed it to their livestock. There's a lot of things. And in fact, today, this grain will go to the pigs. So it's being used. Everything's being used. Everything. Nothing wasted. We waste so much today.
Yeah,
And I'm not one of those Green Planet guys. Not that I'm against that. But like, yeah, we waste. We have so much waste. And they couldn't afford to. We're too fat and lazy. So anyway, all right, so let's get this started. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to collect this water, and let's take a look at the temperature on this. Oh, we're looking good up here. That looks beautiful. See how there's just a little bit of bubbling? Just that little bit. Yeah. That's all we really want. We're going to leave that wood just the way it is.
Okay.
But I don't want it at a full boil. This is going to be good.
Okay.
All right?
Good.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to mash.
Hold on.
Oh, you got. Believe me, you're not going to miss it. Now, if I just pull this straight out, we get a little bit of chunk, but it's already started to get compacted. So I just pull the dowel out, and we're going to start collecting the mash or the wort.
The wort. That's the sugar wort.
Correct.
I'm learning.
You just want to drink it.
I do.
Well, it's so one of my favorite lines. Favorite thing is everybody that comes by, they're like, when are we coming back and drink? And I was like, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks.
Time?
Well, depends.
Depends on what you're making?
Yeah, well, yes and no. It's normally 3 weeks. 1 week in 1 week in primary, 2 weeks in secondary. If you go to bottle, it's another 2 weeks for it to become carbonated. If you go to keg, you can force carbonate it right then and technically drink it that night.
Oh.
Okay? Professional breweries are having a 2 week turnaround. Okay? The colonists in medieval, like 3 to 5 days they'd be into this because they had to. It was part of that, and it was probably still fermented. Remember too, their palates are going to be a lot different. They could probably tolerate a lot more bad stuff than we could.
So if they were into it like 3 to 4 days and it was still fermenting, was it a lower alcohol content?
No, because most of the alcohol you get in beer happens within 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it fine tunes the taste. It like mellows out a little bit. It also, there will be some added fermentation. Also with active yeast, there actually might be a little foaming, a little carbonation happening early in keg or wherever they have it. The other thing is the yeast taste. They'll have a yeasty ready taste. If you ever have young beer, you'll taste yeast. Have a good one, ladies. Thank you. All right. We're back in 2 weeks.
Have you made beer bread?
I haven't, but I have a friend that's a lady brewer that does.
Okay.
Now what we're looking for on the top of this thing is for it to just get below the grain line.
Okay.
Once we start seeing that grain line, I'm going to start adding that hot water.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience, guys. I could go on, and if, we didn't even touch upon styles. I could talk to you about styles and.
I'm having fun. This is interesting.
I love
learning about the process. I mean, I had a kit once, and I made.
Was it like a Mr. Beer?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Beer.
exactly.
That's exactly what it was.
And I messed with it. It said, depending on how much sugar you put in, the alcohol content. So I doubled it to make it more.
Right. Did you like it?
Potent.
It made a drinkable beer, didn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it since.
Yeah. I mean, I always think hey, I give you kudos. A lot of people, I can't tell you how many people say, "Oh man, beer brewing's so cool. I want to do it." And I give them my card. And I'm central. I live in Media, Delaware County, and if you live in Delaware County, even the city, it's like a hop. It's not bad to come out from the city. I got friends from the city that come out to help brew all the time, 20 minutes to a half hour. If you have the heart to do it, I'm here for you. Because I want to teach people, because I want to be able to learn from them too.
Yeah.
But then also, beer's cool, in the brewing community. So, but I can't tell you how many people. Oh yeah, I'll be there. If I invite 100 people, I'm lucky if I get one that actually come out and do it. And then of maybe 5 people that'll come out, 2 or 3 will come back. So, but hey, I'm still making beer.
You're still doing it. I don't care. You're still doing it. Having fun.
And by the way, this process looks identical in the mash tun, the plastic cooler mash tun. Okay. Same thing. Water goes down below the grain bed, and then we add some more hot water. Same exact process. You guys, I hope you brought something to drink. There's water in the house too if you want something.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're doing some fighting over there, I think.
Wow. I like fighting.
Yeah.
And beer. Beer and
You
then
must be
fighting.
Irish.
A little bit.
So this is the part, you don't want to record the whole thing. It's up to you. I mean, this is. So this process in a modern batch would just be scooped in by pitchers or something called a sparging. It's basically a tube with a little arm that sprays it out over the top of the bed.
Can I try that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just be really careful.
How are the hops harvested here going?
They've been picked.
Oh yeah.
I was going to ask. I don't know if I didn't get a chance to ask Maury if we had any available.
The whole idea was to get some available.
Yeah, so I don't know. I also didn't mention it because I totally slipped my mind.
I hope we can get enough hops and enough
Oh,
barley or something grown here in a single year to produce.
You're
that
telling
foam.
me if we could get the, well, you know, they've got, that's what's going to, we do have hops grown here. We have, they've been playing with wheat. There's been talk of barley. We also have some hives. I want to make a mead here, man. Even if we do a 1 gallon.
Well, we can definitely talk to.
Yeah, that'd be really great. No, let's hold off on that. If you look in there now, it's above the water line. We're going to let it seep through again. I'm pushing that back down, and we'll.
Oh yeah, now you can smell it.
It smells like oatmeal, right?
Yeah, this was very considered a definite part of the diet.
And it's safe too. Huge. So yeah, the hope one day, and that's been my dream for here, is that they grow enough barley.
Is this what we use for the beer?
Yes.
And the tin? Okay.
See, this is the part. This is the hard part too, like the waiting, because this. Remember we talked about time and money.
Yes.
This is the time.
This is the time.
This is the time, you know, that it takes to pull the beer off the wort, to boil the water, to get them to the temperatures you want. Remember, it's an hour rest, they call it. So you got an hour then. Now the nice thing is if you're with friends, we sit around, we'll drink beer and talk and hang out and have a good time. Then when it's time to go back to work, you go back and you do your thing, and you talk and you have a good time, and you drink beer, and you know, it's a great day. That's why I love it. I think it's no wonder to me that friars and monks brewed beer, because it's very communal. You know, like in getting to know people and talking to them and dreaming about what you want to do next, and you know, trying people's beers. This is the.
So now, how do you know how much water to put in?
It has. There is an equation that you can use. I do not know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
I know from experience brewing at home, we're at like four gallons in the initial, 3 gallons in the next. Sometimes we brew extra depending on how much we pull off.
Okay.
Because I know I want to try to get at least 6.5 gallons because of the burn off. But you also got to watch having too much water, because then your gravity level will be lower than you may be expecting.
So when this is all done here, what are we doing with that bucket?
Well, I'll tell you, what they would have done is it would have went right on the fire, they would have had a bigger collection bucket. I'm going to kind of cheat and put it in my plastic bucket just for holding while I pour more water off and put more in.
Okay.
But they would have put it right to fire.
Okay.
Now, so I'm going to stop this. Excuse me. I'm going to pour this now.
Doesn't that look appetizing?
It's not bad. And again, the bucket is not medieval, just so you know. Oh, sure. Just very careful. No, I want to watch. I want to watch you spoon. Yeah, he does.
Oh, he totally fits in with us.
Guys, if you want to, if you let me know. Where do you guys do your, like when you sit down and try them beers? When do you do that?
Well, we'll probably do it because Lou's flying out here next month, and we have 2 weeks where he'll be here.
All right.
So we'll probably just doing it at my house. So
Okay.
You're
I was gonna
welcome.
say, if you want me to like come by and.
oh
like,
yeah.
I'm not trying to like hog your
Oh no.
your show. But
Sure.
it'd be really cool to talk about them.
Yeah.
Come give me one.
That'd be cool to
It'd
have.
probably be like
out and-
yeah the
What I'll do is I'll put a bunch aside, and then like have some of the varieties that we have, and then and then if you do, will it be before Thanksgiving or after?
before.
Okay. Got a ton of wheat right now. I don't know if we have anything ready. Maybe.
We will drink whatever you have.
Yeah.
So
I got the peanut. I got the.
That'll be good.
I got a nut brown. I've got a Hefeweizen. I got the Berliner. I got a Belgian Wick right now. Oh, I'll bring you a special bottle over too. It's a braggot. I call it Bilbo. It's 13% alcohol.
Ooh.
It's a mix of honey and beer. It is freaking amazing.
I like it.
5 ounces of hops in it. You would think it has a lot of hop flavor to it, but because it's so strong, it's superb, man. That'll be one that I market for sure. The peanut I'm going to market. The Berliner I'm going to market. There's a couple that people love them. The Hefts went over real well too. The Kolsch went over well too. I was surprised at that. We just did the German Society in Philadelphia, over there off Spring Garden.
Yeah.
They're just such nice people. Like we had such a blast. It was our medieval society, and we were in the Rathskeller. We were in the basement, and they have a beautiful bar down there. We have events there, and they give our society a really good deal to be in there. But one of the stipulations was, we'll give you this price, but you got to come do an event for us. So we went and did an event for them and had the best time. One of the women came over and she's like, "You're Kolsch." She's like, they're all like German, and she's like, "I haven't had a Kolsch this good since I left Germany," and I was just like, wow, like
that's
that was
awesome.
just
Yeah.
like, what a compliment to me. I don't want to be necessarily your American brewer. I want to just be a brewer that represents something true.
Right.
Not, I'm not going to be the guy. I mean, I'm going to make a hoppy ass beer. Everyone's drinking them, so I will make one. But like, that's not my purpose. There's guys with like 5 varieties of hops. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make one for the guy. I'm going to make a weak one, and then I'm going to make, like when I say weak, like a little bit less hop, a very hoppy one, a less hoppy one.
Yeah.
That's my marketed IPAs. Then I'm going to play. Then I'm just going to town. Because I got the Kolsch went over, the Hef went over well, Peanut. I mean, our guys like the Nut Brown. I mean, and I've had audiences. I've got people that already were like, "Let me know what you're doing."
Sweet.
Like, so that's the thing. I'm going to have a small market.
Good.
And my hope is like 1,000 gallons a month.
Wow.
Nothing huge.
That'd be good.
That's
Awesome.
a one-man operation.
That
Yeah.
sounds huge enough.
It really. What's so funny? So you figure 1,000 gallons a month. This is going to blow your mind. 1,000 gallons a month. That's 12,000 gallons a year. Okay. You know what the license allows you to brew? You're allowed to brew no more than 1.5 million gallons a year. It's for the license. Once you go over 1 million gallons, then you're a large distributor.
Oh, wow.
1 million gallons.
Wow. That's a
I
lot.
can't even begin. And my buddy who's got the 22 barrel system, they're not going to put that kind of that much out. Dogfish Head, they're doubling their operation, which will put them. I don't know if they're building the second floor. Have you guys been down to
No.
the
No.
plant? Oh, you
Not
got to
yet.
go. It's freaking awesome. Their tasting room. Their tasting room's beautiful. They got great beers. And Sam's an innovator, and they're adding a whole second floor to
Awesome.
double their production,
Wow.
which will take them up to about I think they said 750,000. They're still under
Wow.
1 million gallons.
And that's if they
a year.
double.
And that's doubling their production. They started distilling too. Did you guys see that?
Oh no.
They're distilling now too. They're making their own vodka, making their own.
Wow.
I'm a vodka girl.
Oh yeah, be on the lookout because it's gonna be coming. And if Sam's got his hand on it, it's gonna be good. There's a couple Fuggle, and for those historians that give a rip, Fuggle, Kent Golding, or Goldings, they're pretty old strains of English hops.
Okay. And what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna
Are you gonna just throw that in there?
Yeah, I'm gonna do about half of that in for bittering, and then a half at the last 5 minutes of cooking.
Okay.
The first batch that you add is for bittering. The last is for aroma.
And how long, when you put that in, how long do you have to stay in there?
An hour. I mean, it'll stay in till you filter it. Now these are whole hops too. Modern brewers, you could be adding pellets. This is whole hops, and I wanted the whole hops so people could actually see the leaves and smell the aroma. Yeah, and they'll go in now. Talk about racking. So modern and medieval. We're not going to do racking really. What I'm going to make there. So we already filtered it once. We're just gonna, this would go normally into like a bucket or a device or something that would just be covered and let it cool on its own and let the wild yeast get at it. And that's when the beer would happen. 3 days later, 3 to 5 days later, they would be drinking this.
Okay.
In our day, this in a stainless steel kettle, we do something called a wort chiller. And you can make one. They're not super cheap. You can get a copper coil that you can bend on your own. Add like a garden hose and a clamp. You don't have to do this, but the quicker you cool beer, the better it is. It's something called protein break. So the quicker you can get it to come down in temperature, the better off the beer is. And so that's something that's really big to understand. A lot of people try to do an ice chill. They'll get put their stainless steel cooker in the sink, fill it with ice, and let it cool that way, or put it out in a winter day, or whatever. The best way, though, and I highly recommend it if you're going to get into brewing, get yourself or make yourself a wort chiller, stainless steel coil or copper coil into a circle, garden hose on each end, hook it to your cold water, put the other one back in the drain, or put wherever you want your other end to go to drain, and let the cold water run through the coil. You could spend hours waiting for this to cool, or on an average day I can get my 5-gallon batch in 20 minutes cool. With the stainless steel. If you do something called a counterflow wort chiller, that's water flowing in and out like constantly, like one goes one way and one goes the other, or you could have one hooked to a glycol machine that pushes super cold water through. Like that's like 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. But again, money.
Yeah.
You can put together a copper coil or a stainless steel wort chiller for like $100, $150.
Cool.
By the way, new brewers, if you want to get a kit, you can get a brew kit at your local brew store for as low as like $65, $70. That comes with everything you need, except for a glass carboy if you want to do secondary.
I'm gonna die. I'm out of here.
Glass is expensive as crap. You're going to be paying anywhere from $30 to $40 for your 5-gallon glass carboy. You can go plastic carboys. You can go plastic. It's a little cheaper. Just don't. Plastic can hold contaminants and off flavors much easier than glass. So you need to be clean, but also watch scratching. And do not put. You shouldn't really put long fermenting beers in plastic, like Russian Imperial Stouts, barley wines, things like that, because the longer they're in, the higher chance they have for contamination or off flavors. I'm sure there's some brewers out there that disagree with me, but this is just something I know from talking to people and brewing on my own. So you could get your initial startup kit for everything you need to brew your beer, not including your cooking, because you're talking like another 60. Your cooker, like an aluminum pot, just to see if you like it, and your brew kit, your wort chiller, $200, everything, I think, ish. That's for the new brewer. Or you could come brew with me and media, and I'll teach you how to brew, and you can use my equipment and see if it's something you like instead of dropping $200
And trying it on your own.
and doing it on your own. That's what I'll do. Yeah. So contact me, and I'm sure you'll have access to how to reach me.
Where can people get in contact with you?
You can email me at lonecrow, LONECROW 72 at hotmail.com, or look up, I don't know what the address is. Oh, you know what? Go to B3, B as in boy 3, b3.net, I think it is. We have a website, and from there you can click right to our Facebook page.
Oh, awesome.
Brotherhood of Brewers is the name of our group. We're in Media, Pennsylvania, Delaware County.
Like that's your job, like from the top.
The other thing is, go to your local brew stores. If you're not local to me in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, go to your local brew stores and talk to them. They can hook you up with local brewers that can help you. So if you don't want to drop $200 or $100, you can easily go and find people you can brew with. It's nice when you got, like, some people brew a couple times a year. Some people brew all year like we do. We brew between 100 and 200 gallons a year, and we're doing mead, wine, beer, all that kind of stuff. Just to jump back real quick, we didn't talk about finishing the beer for modern. We cool our beer, then we put it into a fermenting bucket, which is just like this. Okay. Obviously, this is my medieval fermenting bucket. Yeah, this is old, so don't go by that. But and we're shooting for 5 gallons, and if you get a little over, that's great. It's fine. If you're a little under, it is what it is, man. Don't sweat it. Make sure it's below 80 degrees in general. 80 degrees is the magic number for making sure you don't or kill your yeast. So remember we added our yeast in the beginning and at the end, roughly. Put your beer after it's cool. Oh, and I find don't move your beer around a lot. Like, pick up your container that you're cooking it in, put your wort chiller right in the container, and then cool it through your wort chiller that way. Instead of, sometimes we used to pour, but I talked to Professor Barth, B-A-R-T-H, up at U of Penn, and he swears up and down that if you move hot beer, it can damage the beer. I've never noticed that, but hey, don't do it. And put the wort chiller in there, cool it below 80 degrees. Take about 20 minutes with cold water. You can ice bucket it too if you got a way to have another wort chiller later on. We do too sometimes in the hot summer when it's humid. Sometimes the water doesn't come down that cool, and you really want to try to get it below 80. Put it in your bucket, put your yeast in, stir it up, stir it for about 2 minutes to get it aerated, because you need that aeration for your yeast. Close it up, airlock, 1 week, take it out. Auto siphon's another thing. They have these things you can suck on, and like you're getting gas out of the, but then there's one that you just suck it up and push it down, and it automatically creates the siphon. It's called an auto siphon, worth its weight in gold. Take a hydrometer reading. Hydrometer measures your sugar alcohol level. The reason it's important is because if you bottle completely unfermented, like if you can bottle beer that's not done fermenting, when you cap bottles, you will create glass grenades. Okay, it's a difference between corking wine. The worst case scenario is you pop corks. Okay, but in beer, when you cap that, if it's not done fermenting, I've had people have glass explode, like in their car. Okay, so be very careful. So how you take the hydrometer reading is you drop the hydrometer. It looks like a thermometer. It's like a long thing. You put it in when you take right before you put in your yeast, measure your reading, like 1.050. Let's use that as an example. That's going to put you in about 5% alcohol. 1.050. I take it out. I document everything I did with that, so you know how to duplicate it if it's the perfect batch. Wait a week. Take it out. Take a hydrometer reading. By then, you should be down to about 1.010, which is a good number. It'll only leave about 1% fermentables left, which is pretty safe. If it still has time, if it's like 1.020 or higher, rack it into glass for your secondary. It's another way to get here's your smoke. Another way to get your beer clear and filtered. Put it in carboy. and then let that wait 2 weeks. Take that out, auto siphon it into a bottling bucket with 3/4 cup of corn sugar solution for your carbonation for bottles. Take your hydrometer reading, hopefully it's still below 1.010, and go ahead and bottle. Make sure your bottles are clean. By the way, I can't tell you, home brewing, clean, 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 clean. Beer is, normal beer is about 3 to 5, 6% alcohol. Not a lot of alcohol, and bacteria can still get in there. Unlike when you're working with wine and stuff, you've got a higher percent alcohol, a lot less chance for bacteria. But keep everything clean. There's cleaning solutions, all different types. Use them. And that's pretty much it.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we did it, guys. Thanks for being patient. It was a lot to go over.
Just thank you for all the information you gave us, for, like the history and detailed and process. It's awesome. I mean, for anybody that wants to brew beer, I think we have an entire instructional video.
Yeah.
That'll be great. And if we don't, I mean, we have your contact
The other
information.
thing too is if you have people that are interested but like maybe don't want to get together with me, I do have some documentation where I have it on all, like how to brew basic beer on a pamphlet as well. Like they could just, if they drop me a buck or two just to cover paper costs, I don't have a problem with helping people out.
Good.
Or giving it to them digitally is another way. I have a whole PowerPoint presentation. That I do.
Awesome. Oh, we will have to have you. We'll have to have Tony have you out to the next like the history thing.
It's hard. I feel so bad because like I went out with Tony and started doing. I did a demo with him early on over at the Lazaretto house, and now I don't normally go for 2 reasons. One, because I'm always so busy already. 2, I've done like my freebies. Like this is the only place now that I do free demos for because they're like my family here. Not that Tony's not, but it's different because I was here before I was with Tony, and I do stuff for the SCA for free. For you, for a show, I'll definitely do. It's cool, you know what I mean? Like that'd be awesome. But like, because that's good PR for me too, you know. But I usually charge like $300 to do a historic demo.
Oh, that's nice.
I do demos at pirate festivals, Marcus Hook Pirate Festival. I do,
Pirates.
Lewis Beach Pirate Festival. I've done the Archaeological Society in Delaware. So
awesome.
And for friends, if they have something, I'd like probably do 200. But,
Cool.
yeah. But for like you guys or whatever for a show, it's great. It's beautiful.
Awesome. All right, I guess we wrapped it up, huh?
Yeah, this is good,
The
guys.
only
Thank
thing
you so
left
much.
to do is to drink.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get together and share some of the beers that we've made.
We will get we will get you the dates when Lou's out, and then we'll all get together and we will drink.
Yeah, and
Around the campfire.
probably like for me, like the season is ending. It's good. The season's ending, so like there's a lot less camping, a lot less demos and stuff now. So like getting into November is really good for me. Just the quicker you get me, the better off I am.
Right.
So give me some dates,
Yeah, I will let you know as soon as we're done.
And
Here.
I will, I could bring a case down and of varieties, and we could all just sit around and drink some cold ones and talk about beer.
All
We have
right.
a tiki bar in the backyard.
Oh
We
yeah.
just
Hopefully it's
have
not
our
too cold
fire
by
going.
then.
Oh,
yeah.
we have fire. Fire
neat.
pit going.
Okay.
We're good.
I think we're
Oh,
gonna
and
wrap it
also,
up.
are you still filming?
Yes, go ahead.
Just also thanks. This is Ridley Creek State Park, the Colonial Plantation. I want to put a plug in for them. Check out their website, Ridley Creek State Park, Colonial Plantation. If you look up Colonial Plantation, come on out. They do a lot of colonial reenactings, historical things. This is medieval days. You got to probably get a little bit of a glimpse of that. And check them out. This is a functioning farm. And they do everything here from the 18th century. So come on out. The house is gorgeous, beautiful. They've done a lot of work here.
Awesome.
If you heard that we have the hops planted. We just picked them this year. They've tried wheat. They're going to be doing barley. They got hives, gardens, herbs, animals. Come on out.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, guys. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Really nice meeting you guys. And let's get together and drink some beer, man.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Finish it up.
Sweet. I think we're done.
All right. Have a good one, guys.